You've probably heard this before. Working out on an empty stomach helps you burn more fat. In other words, fasting workouts. No breakfast, no protein shakes, just get up, work out, and supposedly burn more fat. Sounds easy, right? But I kept wondering, is that actually true, especially for women over 40? Because the more I looked into it and the more I had clients who were trying to do this, the more complicated it got. After 40, your body just isn't working the same way that it used to. Hormone shift, muscle becomes harder to maintain. Your metabolism isn't quite the same, even if you're doing all the right things. So when someone says just do fasted workouts, it's great for fat loss, I think, well, it's great for who? Because for women in midlife, that advice might not exactly work. So I started looking into the science, and some of the big researchers talk about this. What actually happens when, women over 40 work out without eating first? Is it helpful? Is it harmful? Or is the truth somewhere in between? And it turns out that there's a reason that fasted workouts become so popular. And in some cases, they really can work. So before we get into the risks, let's start with what's behind the hype. What are the actual benefits of working out while fasted? By the way, my name is Sara Preston with Sara Preston Healthy Living. I'm an integrative health practitioner and a menopause fat loss coach. So why are fasted workouts so popular? Well, they do have some benefits. They say that it's going to help with fat burning. In some cases, it can. When you work out in a fasted state, your insulin levels are low, meaning you don't have carbs, you don't have sugar, you don't have insulin stored up right in the morning when you wake up because you haven't eaten anything. So your body is more likely to burn stored fat. When we deplete those glycogen stores, I don't want to get too sciencey, but when we deplete the glycogen out of our body, the stuff that's stored, our body will go towards stored fat for fuel, especially during steady state cardio, walking, jogging. Fat oxidation can go up. It can help, same way, it can help with insulin sensitivity. So some studies suggest that training while fasted can improve insulin sensitivity. And that is how well your body responds to sugar or carbs. And that's especially important for us women who are over 40 because we're more likely to experience insulin resistance as we age. So better blood sugar control is a nice bonus. It can also help with energy and mood and your long-term metabolic health. And it's convenient, right? So you get up, you don't have to worry about breakfast. You just go work out. There's no digesting food during that, which some people, when they work out right after a meal, or when they're digesting food, it doesn't feel so great. So it's convenient. You don't have to think, you don't have to figure out what to eat. You just go and if you have a busy morning, you're juggling kids, feels like one less thing that you need to do. And some people just feel better doing it, less sluggish, less bloated, just because they haven't eaten anything. So for some people, especially those who are sleeping well, eating enough overall, like hitting your macros, eating enough calories, and not pushing your workouts too hard, fasted workouts can be totally fine, especially like walking or light cardio might feel good and that would feel fine. The key is to understand your body and what's going on with your body, how you're recovering, what stress state your body is in, and what goals you have. So let's talk about why it might not be a good idea or who it might not be a good idea for to do fasted workouts. And a lot of us are experiencing hormonal shifts. So declining estrogen and progesterone affect our metabolism, our muscle, our recovery, and even fat storage. When your estrogen declines, you tend to store fat around your middle. It's harder to build muscle. Like I mentioned, we have increased insulin resistance. We have increased cortisol sensitivity, meaning that fasted workouts can actually raise your stress level, your cortisol level, because it's another stressor on your body. You haven't eaten anything, it's another stressor. And elevated cortisol chronically over time, it's okay if cortisol is elevated sometimes. We want that. That's what wakes us up and gives us energy for the day. But if it's chronically elevated, like so many of our lives are with teenagers and aging parents and jobs and just, all the things we have going on, if this is just another stressor on your body, then it can lead to chronically high cortisol, which in turn can eventually lead to more belly fat, slower recovery, trouble building muscle. And speaking of muscle, if you are over a certain age, especially after 40, muscle loss starts to accelerate. Fasted workouts, especially fasted strength training without nutrition, can cause muscle to break. So we have to make sure that we're eating enough protein around our workout. And sometimes that can be after the workout. But losing muscle is going to negatively impact your metabolism. It's going to negatively impact your blood sugar. So we just want to be careful that we're not breaking down muscle in the process. And then just what energy do you have for your workout? I always say, like, test it out. Do you feel like you can lift heavier? Do you feel like you can go harder in your HIIT workouts if you have a little bit of food in your system? Most people say yes. If I have a little bit of carbs, even just something small, it doesn't have to be a lot. Even just something small, it can really make a difference in your performance. And therefore, if your performance is better, you're going to build more muscle, you're going to burn more fat, you're going to work harder. And so, test it out to see how your energy levels are. And then with recovery, sometimes after 40, as we age, it just becomes harder to recover. You may have noticed this from your workouts. Muscles, joints, our nervous system, they all need more support. And so, that delaying eating until after your workout can, worsen soreness sometimes, injury risk, delays your recovery, can impact your sleep, your mood, your energy levels. So we just want to make sure that we're fueling properly. And for many, they do need that before the workout, because under eating is also common. And this, especially, a lot of women come to me and they don't realize it until they start looking at their nutrition more intentionally, that they're actually under eating. And that's another stressor on the body. Sometimes we're just busy and stressed or whatever, but we have to make sure that we're fueling our body correctly. And so fasted workouts on top of low calorie intake increases, that muscle loss and our risk of burnout and, not getting enough fuel through the day. So that can make us tired, stall our progress, and it can even really affect our hormones and our thyroid. So what should you do? If you want to try fasted workouts, give them a try. You don't have to. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, I have to fast 16 hours. You don't have to fast 16 hours. Even 12 hours of fasting just overnight. So like having dinner at 7:30 p.m. and breakfast at 7:30 a.m. is amazing for giving your digestion a rest, getting a lot of those autophagy benefits that you hear about. So you don't have to go longer than 12 hours. But if you want to try working out fasted, maybe you work out early in the morning, maybe you just don't like to eat before you work out, I would, try to only do that when you're going to do something that's a little easier, like taking a walk, yoga, things like that. If it's an intense workout, maybe you eat a little something beforehand, especially strength workouts. Make sure you're nice and hydrated, especially if you're first getting up, because when you wake up, you can be dehydrated. And so you might want to add some electrolytes if you're fasting. That can really help. And then, dehydration can make fasted workouts feel harder. So you want to make sure you're really hydrated. And then refuel 30 to 60 minutes after your workout. So don't work out at 5 a.m. and then wait till noon to eat. After your workout an hour after your workout, prioritize some protein, especially if you're doing a strength workout. Include some carbs to support your recovery and your hormones. Because we don't want to slow down that muscle repair. We want to make sure that we are building muscle, and even just a protein shake afterwards. You can mix some berries with it or something, can be really good. That could be before or after. And just pay attention to how your body responds. So make sure that you don't see any dizziness or that your sleep doesn't suffer. Energy is okay. You're not getting intense cravings or mood swings during the day. And if over time you start to feel worse, then I would scale back and shift into a fed workout, because, your recovery and your mood and your energy and your hormones are just as important as the workout itself. So if you've been told that fasted workouts are the secret to fat loss, the truth is that really it depends. They can help with fat burning. They can improve insulin sensitivity, but they can also backfire, especially if you're stressed. Things are just different at this age, especially perimenopause. Our hormones are shifting. So recovery really matters. Muscle really matters. And our stress levels, really matter too. So just pay attention to those. They're not necessarily good or bad. They're just a tool. Just like fasting is just a tool. It's just one thing that you could do. It's not always about weight loss either. So you don't have to follow all the trends that leave you exhausted. You just need to train or work out in a way that works for your body. But if you have any questions about this, please put them below. I'm happy to, go over it with you. You can always reach out to me. You can always message me. But if you feel like you've been feeling stuck or tired, or what used to work for you just doesn't work anymore, I would love to talk to you about helping you, because that's what I coach women on every single day. And if you're a woman over 40, consider subscribing. It's what I talk about a lot on this page. I share science-backed tools, real-life strategies, and clear answers to help you really to feel strong and steady and energetic and really feel like yourself again, especially in midlife. So I would love to see you subscribe if this was helpful to you.